good evening, audience. Uh, we are now in the last leg of NISC 2020 for next just about 1.5 hours. We'll be presenting to you some of the best speakers of the industry. I have proud privilege to welcome Mr. Bharat Goenka, who is the Vice Chairperson of Tally Solutions Private Limited. Importantly, he is the founder of Tally Solutions. Tally has grown from an accounting package for SMEs to becoming a complete business software for all types of sizes of businesses over a period of time. He is a mathematics graduate. Mr. Goenka invests most of his time in giving design inputs to the company's future products and technologies. Importantly, Bharat was honored by NASSCOM as the first ever Lifetime Achievement Award as father of the Indian software product industry. He was also conferred with M. Visvesvaraya Memorial Award in 2017. So, Bharat, I warmly welcome you to NISC 2020. Thank you for taking our request, picking up our request to be a distinguished guest speaker today. And we would like you to please talk about your Tally story. We would want you to share with us how did the company start, how you build your market leadership, what are the next aspirations, and we want to share success stories of our leading product enterprises or SME enterprises who started in India. Of course, you are not an SME IT company anymore, but you're a much, much larger company. But some time back, you were a smaller organization. So this entire journey is brilliant for us, our viewers to, or our IT SME companies to hear from you. So warm welcome, Bharat, and uh, audience, I would request you to please put questions in the Q&A box as soon as it appears to you so that we can take it in the end. And also those who have time, please do see the exhibitors area after Bharat's session. Thank you very much, and over to Bharat. And Justin, can you put me down in?
Thank you, Animan. Thank you for some very kind words. I hope that someday we actually turn out to deserve them. And thank you, NASCOM, for having me on this brilliant set of events which have taken place over the last couple of days. So we have a 36-year-old history, and it will be unjust to try and compress it into a 10-15-minute session and talk about really what the journey entailed. And as with life, honestly, you can't say which aspect of it is important. You can't say that breathing is more important than eating, or eating is more important than exercising, or and so on. Every aspect of it is important. So there are several aspects of business which tend to become important. And what I would like to do, because of the compressed time that we have at hand, I would like to share some reflections on on a subject which over a period of time has been spoken about less and less and has been trivialized more and more. And at Tally, in this last 36 years of our journey, we have continued to treat it as something very serious. And so it sometimes dismays me that the degree of trivialization that is happening in this area. Uh, so the subject is about what really differentiates you in when you are chasing a market. So the basic economic principle is that when all things are equal, the person with the deepest pockets is going to win. And there are various ways to make things unequal. One of the most important, of course, is regulatory, where people are prevented from becoming a monopoly. Yeah. So, for example, in telecom, it really doesn't matter whether Jio is better than Airtel or Airtel is better than Jio in terms of their service, but neither of them will be allowed to become a monopoly. So both of them will become large businesses. They may keep having their ups and downs, but they will always remain large businesses because they can't be allowed to become a monopoly. Such a regulation does not exist in the field of software, and it is one of those industries where in this last several decades we have repeatedly seen almost total monopolies coming into existence, and also total monopolies disappearing. It is a game of winner takes all or loser loses all. And when all things are equal, person with the deepest pocket will win. There has to be a way to figure out what will make it unequal. And the one thing which money cannot buy is inequality of technical quality. It is not just about idea quality. Ideas are secret only until the time the product is not in the market. From the moment the product is in the market, the idea is no longer secret. So if the building of that idea into a product did not require any differentiated technology, then someone else would be able to replicate that idea fairly quickly. And then it starts becoming a game of who has got the deeper pocket, because now suddenly the playing field is equal. So in the early days, software engineers used to take tremendous pains to create truly differentiated technologies. And when I use the word technology here, the let's say uh, two of us are developing some solution, and we have got access to the same hardware, we have got access to the same software building tools. If you are able to extract more cycles out of that same system than me, then you can build features with an experience which I can never match. Because if I try to build the feature and I don't have access to the technology that you used, then my feature will not have that experience. And if I try to change that experience, that is, if I try to change that responsiveness, I'm unable to build that feature. Right? So now you have a technical edge, which makes it difficult for me to compete with you. And it is no longer a question of price. It's no longer a question of market reach. It is just a question of a better product. So over the decades, that is something which, as a company, we have perpetually chased. It's not that you always get it right. It's not that every aspect of the product you build it with that degree of differentiation. But if you don't have any differentiation, then you don't really stand a chance against money being thrown in the market. So we so amongst the various things that are credited to the success of Tally, absolutely we believe that this is one of the most important things. That how do you remain ahead of the curve uh, uh, to the point that over the years we have refused to build features which we could not give to the degree of excellence that we believed the customer deserved. And whether we could not do it because our engineering skill was poor, or we could not do it because uh, uh, the we could not crack the fundamental problem which prevented that kind of experience from emerging. But if we could not give that experience, it is not about giving a tick mark in your software, about giving a feature tick, saying that this feature exists in a software when your user cannot really get delighted in using it. If you look at the history of software and you look at the history of software successes, it is repeatedly found that it is not the cheapest software which wins. It is not the software with the most features which wins. It is not the software from the largest company that wins. It is simply the best software that wins. And consistently over the last several decades, we keep finding that it's the best software that wins. And and the same software can never remain the best, because the environment changes, the landscape changes, technology changes, the uh, uh, the customer's environment changes, the regulatory environment changes. And if your foundations are not rebuilt, you will not get the new set of differentiation. So in more recent times, particularly in the last decade and decade and a half, there has been this push towards saying that you should go early to market and fail early and learn early and therefore pivot early until you hit the sweet spot which will get you the customer. And and the only way you can do that, and they say that now it is very easy because you've got access to commoditized hardware, you've got access to commoditized software, you've got all the building blocks in the open software environment, and just build it. Just take open source and build it. So now everyone has the same tools, everyone has the same environment, everyone has the same everything. So essentially, there is no differentiation between what you are doing and what I am doing. And that just pushes the system lower and lower downhill. And less people now understand the fundamentals of extracting really high capacity power from a computing device. So as an example, for the last year or so, we have been working on trying to see how we can get a transactional database to perform at a few hundred transactions per second on an ordinary laptop, not a modern laptop, on an ordinary laptop. And and assuming for a moment that we crack that problem, uh, we will be able to now build features and capabilities which few people will be able to match because they will not have a similar underlying foundation. I'd like to take an analogy here. The, the world of software actually, all its terminology has been borrowed from civil engineering, and for good reason, because a lot of similarities exist. And, and many times, what you see in the modern environment are that it is almost like saying that you build fast, fail fast, you should get customer feedback fast. So you build a 3-story apartment building so that you can show it to the customers to see whether they like the spacing layout, they like everything, and now they seem to like it. So now you want to convert that 3-story building into a 20-story apartment building, except of course you don't have the foundation for it because you built the foundation for 3 stories because you wanted to do the job fast. And and that's it, right? You just go around in circles because this culture of not focusing on the excellence of quality and focusing on the excellence of the idea, with the belief that the idea is not replicable. But replicability is an engineering problem. Replicability is not an idea problem. Once the idea is in the open, if the engineering is simple, it will just get replicated. So what needs to differentiate an idea is the underlying quality of its engineering, which is difficult to replicate, which means it should have been difficult for you to solve. Right? And that's a statement that we keep making inside Tally, and we've always made the statement inside Tally, that it is never about solving the customer's problem. Really speaking, the customer, it's a very false ego that we are solving any customer's problem. We are very clear we are not solving anyone's problem. A person has a problem of making losses in his business or not getting sufficient orders, or not being able to repay his bank loans. There's no way on earth that we are going to be able to solve their problems. What we need to do is solve our problems, and our problems being that in order to give a high quality software to the customer, what is the kind of engineering problem that we need to pick and solve, which is difficult to solve. So we have to make the problem difficult for ourselves. We have to set boundaries which seem ridiculous, uh, whether it's in communication, whether it is in math routines, whether it is in the way you do a design for a user interface. Okay? You first make the problem difficult for yourself, and that is the problem that you focus on solving, rather than saying that we are solving a customer's problem. And if we have solved our problem well, and we have been able to be delighted by what we have done. We have been able to delight ourselves with what we have done. There's a good chance that customers will be delighted. And by the grace of the Almighty, despite not having done it consistently every single release that we have made, uh, we have done it with adequate frequency, which has allowed us to get to 2 million licensing mark, which approximately translates to 5 million businesses or 6 million businesses whose accounts are run on Tally today. And and we believe that it's been a journey which has been marked with these learnings of what it takes to bring that excellence to the customer. Uh, I hope it was useful. Honestly, I've been having some difficulty in hearing the speakers. So, uh, and that's really all that I would have to say in this short period of time. And I hope it has been useful. And thank you for your patience to listen to me.
Uh, Bharat, you didn't use your time. You had a lot of time to spare. I thought you will tell us a lot of stories about the recent success of the version change.
Sorry, Hanuman, I'm not being able to hear you because if someone at the backstage, they can mute me on the backstage mics, the harmonics will stop. Otherwise, I'm not able to hear the main speaker stage properly.
Okay, can you hear me if I'm speaking slowly? No? You can't hear me?
Sorry, you guys got me back on. I don't really have too much more to add right now.
Hear me, Bharat, now? Bharat, can you hear me now? Bharat, you can't hear? I think Bharat has an audio issue with his connection. Organizers, can you look at
I'm
this?
sorry, Anwan. I don't know if you're asking me a question.
Yes, I am asking.
So,
Can you look at the chat box? Can you look at the Q&A?
oops.
Can you look at the Q&A?
Yes.
So if you look at the Q&A, can you answer these two questions? Or are you able to hear me? Then I can repeat those questions.
But there is actually, I mean, some people have sent some very nice comments.
Yes. So one question I'm repeating. Let's see whether you are able to hear. Majority Indian companies like Tally
Thank
Software
you so
for
much
their
for that.
accounts. What is secret of your success? They are asking. Tally Software is being used by majority of companies for their accounts. What is the secret of your success? Are you able to see that question?
I'm so sorry, Hanuman. I'm sorry
Okay.
I'm disrupting your
No,
the
no
session.
problem. Are you able to see the second question? Every SME likes Tally. Can you see the question? Can you see the questions?
Yes, yeah, every SME likes Tally, but the whole question is not coming up. Let me try and turn it and see.
Yes.
Yeah. However, when will Tally come up with a web-based product? Okay.
Correct. Please. Yes. Can you say that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we s- so first, I think for the last 5 to 8 years, we have been studying this environment which people keep calling as a web-based product. So in this last year, for example, we introduced what is known as browser access on Tally, and it's been very well received. Yet a tiny fraction of our customers use it. When I say tiny fraction, means it's about 2% of our customers who are using it. Right? And what we have been checking for ourselves is what do we use? Right? For example, let's take our email systems. All our email systems are available both on the browser as well as on the desktop. And again, 1% of the people tend to use the browser-based emails. They just tend to use the device-based emails. So when we as individuals love the responsiveness of a device-based software, why do we think our customers will love the slower responsiveness of a web-based software? Because whatever else you do, you can't beat the physics of the problem. The latency which comes through physics, and it's not a software problem, it's a physics problem. The latency of physics is never going to get cracked. Right? So as hardware becomes more and more capable, even as bandwidth and latency on the network goes down, your hardware will always be more responsive than that. So web-based products are a good adjunct rather than a mainline system. So we believe that we will remain in both the spaces perpetually. We will remain on the device, and we will also provide the occasional convenience that someone requires because they don't have access to their own device for whatever reason. Nowadays, with phones coming in people's hands, there is hardly anyone who does not have access to their device. So, so this need for what you call a pure web-based software is lower and lower. Yet, there are occasions where that's the only alternative that you have. Either because you are in a network where your application is not allowed to work, but your browser is allowed to work, so you may require access to a web-based system. So that's a perspective that we have about this. Number one. Number two, the perspective we have is uh, see, the reality is, if I take your data and keep it with me, and there's a good chance that you will trust me. We are a 36-year-old company, and so on and so forth, and it's great. It's lovely that you trust me. But the fact that you trust me means I have to trust some people. I have to trust my organization to ensure that the data is actually safe. And safety has got two perspectives. One aspect of safety is that can someone in my company get access to the data? And perhaps that can be avoided in some way. But the second aspect of safety is that all data of Indian corporates and Indian companies are ultimately, in a way, the safekeeping of the government. So the government can come and demand those servers at any given time. So someone has come and demanded the data of Hanuman, and they don't take just the data of Hanuman, they take that entire hard disk. And on that hard disk, you have the data of another 10,000 companies. And we don't have any, if we don't have a way to protect the custodianship of an organization, then we don't have any right to take custody of it. Right? And as of today, as I'm speaking, I am admitting that we don't know whether it is the right responsibility to take for us right now. So it is not about whether the customer will trust us. It is about our being able to stand up and with hand on heart and say that we can uphold that trust. And until we do that, we don't expect to give back-end custodianship of data with us. So we will give web-based software as long as the data remains in your custody. And at some day, if we believe that we have the wherewithal to take custody of the data, we might take custody of it.
Okay.
I hope that's
Yes,
a
that's
very
very
long
fine.
answer to a short question.
No, very good. So thank you, Bharat. You have been very nice, and you came for NISC 2020 despite being on a holiday and on a very critical family-related mission. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to meeting you in person someday, very, very soon, and probably do a longer workshop with you. And NASCOM would like to work with you, especially NASCOM SME Council would like to take your guidance from time to time. Thank you very much for your time and your availability today. Thank you.